The emergency klaxons of Kepler Station had been silent for exactly 17 minutes. When Captain Sarah Chen received the transmission that would change everything, the holographic display flickered to life in her quarters aboard the UES Defiance, showing the blood-streaked face of Commander Torres, his left eye swollen shut and his uniform torn beyond recognition. "Sarah," his voice cracked, the words coming in ragged gasps. "They're all dead. The Valorans. Christ, they tried to protect us. The Council. They just opened fire without warning." The transmission cut to static, leaving Sarah staring at the empty air where her friend's face had been moments before. 23 years of friendship, dating back to their academy days. And now Marcus Torres was likely dead on a research station 47 light-years from Earth. The bitter irony wasn't lost on her. Kepler Station had been humanity's crown jewel, a testament to what could be achieved when species work together toward a common goal. The Valorans had been Earth's first genuine allies in the galactic community, unlike the cold, calculating Zephyrians or the profit-obsessed Mercandy. The Valorans understood concepts like honor, loyalty, and sacrifice. They were warriors, but warriors with hearts that beat in rhythm with human ideals. When the Galactic Council had demanded that humanity cease their aggressive expansion into what they claimed were protected sectors, it had been the Valorans who stood with Earth in the Council chambers. Admiral Reyes materialized in Sarah's quarters via hologram, his weathered face grim with the weight of command. "Captain Chen, I need you to understand the gravity of what's happened. Our long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures at Kepler Station approximately 4 hours ago. The entire facility has been reduced to debris. Initial reports suggest Council dreadnoughts were responsible." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "And the Valorans, 17 warships. They tried to form a defensive perimeter around the station." The Admiral's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "None survived. The Council didn't just attack them, Sarah. They obliterated every single ship. Even the ones trying to surrender. The few escape pods we detected were targeted and destroyed." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah had served in the colonial navy for 15 years, had seen combat against pirates and separatist factions. But this was different. This was genocide disguised as politics. The Valorans hadn't just been allies. They had been brothers and sisters in arms, sharing their advanced shielding technology and fighting alongside human forces. In 3 separate conflicts, the Council is claiming it was a police action to prevent human colonization of restricted space. Admiral Reyes continued, "They're painting us as the aggressors, saying the Valorans were corrupted by human influence. The media feeds across the galaxy are already spinning it as a necessary intervention." Sarah stood and moved to the viewport, staring out at the stars. That suddenly seemed less welcoming than they had an hour ago. "What are our orders, Admiral?" "Officially, we're to withdraw all forces to the Sol system and await further diplomatic negotiations. The President is hoping to resolve this through the proper channels." The Admiral paused, his image flickering slightly. "Unofficially, Fleet Command wants you to take the Defiance and gather as much intelligence as possible about Council ship movements. We need to know if this was an isolated incident or if they're planning something larger." But Sarah wasn't listening to the official orders anymore. Her mind was replaying every moment she'd spent with Valoran warriors, every shared meal, every tactical discussion, every moment of mutual respect that had grown into genuine friendship. Commander Vex High had saved her life during the Proxima incident. Taking a plasma bolt meant for her. Lieutenant Murden had taught her the Valoran meditation techniques that had kept her sane. During the long months of deep space patrol, they were all dead now, murdered by the very council that preached about galactic peace and cooperation. "Admiral," Sarah said quietly, her voice carrying a steel edge that made even the hardened veteran pause. "I need to know something. How many human colonies are there? In the outer sectors? How many civilians are living beyond the Council's so-called acceptable boundaries?" "Approximately 2.3 million across 47 worlds," he replied immediately. "But Sarah, you're not thinking of, I'm thinking that. The Council just declared war on humanity, whether they want to admit it or not." She turned back to face the hologram, her green eyes blazing with barely contained fury. "They killed our allies, They destroyed a civilian research station. And now they're demanding we abandon our people to their mercy." The Admiral's expression hardened. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "I'm suggesting that maybe it's time the galaxy learned why humanity fought its way to the stars. In the first place, we didn't come out here to be told where we could and couldn't live by beings who view us as inferior. We came here because we refused to be caged." Sarah's voice rose, carrying the passion that had made her one of the youngest captains in the fleet. "The Valorans died defending that principle. They died defending us. Captain Chen, you're walking a very dangerous line here. The Council has 16 member species and thousands of ships. Humanity has been part of galactic civilization for less than 50 years. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and politically isolated." Sarah smiled, but it was the kind of smile that had made pirates surrender without a fight. "Admiral, with respect, the Council has never faced an enemy that views impossible odds as a challenge rather than a deterrent. They've never fought humans who are truly angry." The hologram flickered as the Admiral considered her words. When he spoke again, his voice carried a note of something that might have been approval. "Your orders are to gather intelligence, Captain. How you choose to interpret those orders, well, that's why we gave you command of the Defiance in the first place." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her command console and began entering coordinates. The Defiance was one of humanity's newest ships, incorporating both human engineering and Valoran defensive technology. It was fast, heavily armed, and crewed by some of the most dedicated men and women in the fleet. More importantly, it was crewed by humans who had worked alongside Valorans, who had called them friends. The intercom crackled to life. "Captain, this is Commander Morrison. We've received word about Kepler Station. The crew is, well, they're asking for orders." Sarah keyed the ship-wide comm system. "All hands. This is the captain. By now you've all heard about what happened at Kepler Station. You know about the Valorans who died defending human civilians. You know about the Council's ultimatum." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I want you to understand something. What happened today wasn't politics. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was murder. Cold, calculated murder of beings who trusted us, who stood with us, who died for us." The ship seemed to hold its breath. "We have our orders from Fleet Command, and we will follow them. But I want every single person on this ship to understand that we are no longer just representatives of Earth. We are the inheritors of a debt of honor that can only be paid in kind. The Valorans died believing in the principles that humanity brought to the stars. They died believing that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds." Sarah's voice carried through every corridor, every duty station, every quiet corner of the ship. "The Council wants us to withdraw, to abandon our colonies, to forget about our allies. They want us to be grateful for their mercy and accept whatever scraps they're willing to give us. But they made one critical mistake. They forgot that humans don't just mourn their dead, we avenge them." The bridge erupted in quiet affirmations, voices carrying from every section of the ship. These weren't just crew members anymore. They were warriors with a cause, inheritors of a legacy written in Valoran blood. "Set course for the Kepler debris field," Sarah ordered. "Maximum burn, and signal the fleet. Tell them Captain Chen sends her regards to the Council. Tell them that Earth remembers its debts." As the Defiance surged toward the outer rim, its engines burning brighter than the stars themselves, Sarah stood at the viewport and made a silent promise to the friends who would never see another sunrise. The Council had thought they were dealing with a young, naive species that would bow to superior force. They were about to learn that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. They had awakened humanity's rage. The Defiance dropped out of hyperspace to a site that would haunt Sarah's dreams for the rest of her life. Where Kepler Station had once stood, a magnificent structure of gleaming metal and crystalline energy conduits, now only a field of debris drifted in the cold embrace of space. Twisted metal fragments, some still glowing with residual heat, painted a picture of destruction so complete that it seemed almost artistic in its thoroughness. "Jesus Christ," whispered Lieutenant Commander Hayes from the tactical station. "There's nothing left. It's like they wanted to erase every trace that we were ever here." Sarah stood at the center of the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back, as she watched the debris field scroll past on the main screen. Each piece of wreckage represented lives lost, dreams shattered, and a future stolen. But it was the smaller objects that caught her attention, the personal effects that had somehow survived the Holocaust. A child's toy, spinning slowly in the vacuum. A coffee mug with Galaxy's Best Dad printed on its side. A data pad still displaying a half-finished letter to someone back on Earth. "Captain," Science Officer Kim reported, her voice tight with emotion. "I'm detecting organic matter scattered throughout the debris field. The Council didn't just destroy the station, they vaporized everyone on board. Men, women, children. There were families here, Captain, families." The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Sarah closed her eyes and felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like a shroud. 1,700 souls had called Kepler Station home, researchers, engineers, children born among the stars who had never seen Earth's blue sky, all of them reduced to scattered atoms by beings who claimed to represent galactic civilization. "Commander Morrison," Sarah said quietly, "launch a full spread of sensor drones. I want every piece of debris cataloged, every energy signature analyzed. If there's evidence of what happened here, I want it preserved. Captain." Drones. Away, as the small reconnaissance probes spread throughout the debris field. Sarah moved to the communications station. "Any word from Fleet Command?" "Nothing official, Captain. But we're picking up encrypted chatter from other ships in the sector. The Council has issued a formal statement, claiming the station was being used as a military installation. They're saying we were building weapons in violation of the Galactic Accords." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Weapons?" Kepler Station was researching agricultural techniques for terraforming. They were trying to figure out how to grow food on dead worlds. That's not how the Council is spinning it, Captain. They're claiming the Valorans were corrupted by human militaristic ideology, and that the station was a threat to galactic peace. Before Sarah could respond, a new voice crackled over the calm system of voice that made every human on the bridge freeze. It was speaking in the distinctive harmonic tones of the Valorans, but something was wrong. The voice was weak, fading, tinged with pain. "This is War Singer Cathara of the Valoran Defense Fleet. If any humans receive this message, know that we died with honor. Know that we chose to stand with our oath brothers even when the Council threatened our home world. We regret only that we could not save them all." The transmission was old, recorded during the battle, but somehow it had survived in the wreckage of a Valoran communication relay. Sarah felt tears she hadn't shed in years burning behind her eyes as the brave alien's voice continued. "Tell our human friends that the song of ending was sung with their names upon our lips. Tell them that the bond between our peoples is written in starfire and cannot be broken by death. Tell them that Valoran honor demands vengeance." The message dissolved into static, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. War Singer Cathara had been one of the most respected military leaders in the Valoran fleet. Sarah had met her twice at diplomatic functions, and both times she had been struck by the alien's quiet dignity and fierce loyalty to her principles. "Captain," Hayes said softly, "I'm detecting something odd in the debris field. There's a section where the wreckage patterns don't match the rest of the destruction. It's almost like what, Lieutenant Commander? Like someone tried to hide something or protect it." Sarah turned to face the tactical display, her mind racing. "Show me." The main screen shifted to display a three-dimensional map of the debris field. Most of the wreckage was scattered in predictable patterns, the result of massive explosions and gravitational forces. But in one section, near what had once been the station's research laboratories, the debris formed an almost perfect sphere around a dark space. "It's a gravitational anomaly," Kim reported, her instruments working frantically. "Something in that area is bending spacetime, creating a pocket of, I don't know what to call it, compressed reality." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Could it be a weapon?" "I don't think so, Captain. The energy signatures are all wrong. This isn't destructive, it's protective. It's like someone created a bubble of safety in the middle of all this destruction." "The Valorans." Sarah breathed. "They did something during the battle. They saved something." The bridge crew exchanged glances. The Valorans were known for their mastery of exotic energy manipulation, but this was beyond anything humanity had ever seen them accomplish. Whatever they had done, it had cost them dearly. The energy readings suggested that multiple ships had sacrificed themselves to create and maintain the anomaly. "Captain," Morrison said from his station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Reyes. He's requesting immediate status report." Sarah ignored the communication request. Her instincts were screaming that whatever the Valorans had died to protect was more important than fleet protocol. "Can we get closer to the anomaly?" "It's risky, Captain. The gravitational forces are intense. If we get too close, we might not be able to pull away." "Do it." The Defiance moved slowly through the debris field, its hull occasionally scraping against twisted metal fragments as they approached the anomaly. The ship's sensors began picking up impossible readings. The space within the gravitational bubble wasn't empty. It contained something that registered as both matter and energy. Both there and not there. "Captain," Kim's voice was filled with wonder, "I'm detecting life signs." "Impossible. Nothing could survive in that environment. That's just it. I don't think it's a normal environment. The readings suggest that time is moving differently inside the bubble. Much, much slower. If someone was in there when the Valorans created this phenomenon, they might experience minutes while we experience hours." Sarah's heart began to race. "How many life signs? Difficult to say. The readings are distorted, but I'm reading at least 50, maybe more. Human life signs." "Captain." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as crew members began working frantically to analyze the anomaly. Sarah stood perfectly still, her mind processing the implications. The Valorans hadn't just died protecting the station, they had died protecting the people inside it. Somehow, in their final moments, they had created a pocket of safety that had preserved human lives. "Captain," Hay said urgently, "I'm detecting Council ships approaching from the outer system. 3 dreadnoughts, moving fast. They'll be here in less than an hour." Sarah's expression hardened. The Council was coming back, probably to ensure there were no survivors, no witnesses to their atrocity. They would find the anomaly, and they would destroy it along with everyone inside. "Commander Morrison, signal the fleet. Tell them we've found survivors and that we're going to need backup." "Captain, the nearest fleet elements are 6 hours away. We'll be heavily outnumbered." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to make sure. 6 hours is enough time to save our people and give the Council a lesson they'll never forget." She turned to face her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that burned in her own heart. They were about to face impossible odds against a superior enemy, but they were going to do it anyway. Because that's what humans did. They stood up to bullies, they protected the innocent, and they never, ever abandoned their own. "All hands, battle stations. We're going to extract those survivors, and then we're going to show the Council what happens when you murder human families. Today, we make them pay for every life they took." As the Defiance prepared for battle, Sarah looked out at the debris field one last time. The Valorans had given their lives to save human civilians. Now it was humanity's turn to honor that sacrifice. The Council thought they were dealing with a young, frightened species that would run when faced with superior force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Council dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace like dark angels of death, their massive hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Sarah watched their approach on the tactical display, her mind calculating odds that would have made a gambler weep. 3 ships, each one carrying enough firepower to reduce the Defiance to constituent atoms against her single vessel and a crew of 300 souls. "Captain," Hayes reported, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "Lead ship is the Sovereign Justice, flagship of the Council's 3rd Fleet. Admiral Ziegler commanding. The other 2 are the Moral Authority and the Divine Mandate." Sarah almost laughed at the names. The Council's arrogance was breathtaking. They named their ships like they were delivering salvation instead of genocide. "Any response to our hails?" "Negative, Captain. They're not even acknowledging our presence." "Then they're planning to destroy us along with the survivors." Sarah moved to the captain's chair, her fingers drumming against the armrest. "Commander Morrison, send a message to the survivors inside the anomaly. Tell them help is coming, but they need to be ready for emergency extraction. How do we communicate with them if time is moving differently inside the bubble? We don't know that it is. The Valorans were masters of spatial manipulation, not temporal physics. For all we know, they're experiencing time normally, and we're the ones in an accelerated state. Sarah paused, studying the readings. Either way, we need to try. As Morrison worked on the communication protocols, Sarah turned her attention to a problem that had been nagging at her since they arrived. The Council ships were approaching with confidence, but they weren't scanning the debris field. They knew exactly where they were going, which meant they had been monitoring the situation from the beginning. Kim, I need you to run a deep analysis on the energy signatures from the battle. Look for anything that doesn't match standard Council weapons. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the Council ships. They're charging their main cannons. Time to intercept. 12 minutes. Captain. Sarah closed her eyes and let her mind wander to a conversation she'd had with her father years. Before she joined the Navy, he had been a history professor, obsessed with ancient Earth battles where outnumbered forces had achieved impossible victories. Sometimes he had told her, the key to winning isn't having the biggest gun. It's making sure your enemy doesn't know where you are when you pull the trigger. Hayes, I want you to implement Ghost Protocol. The tactical officer's face went pale. Captain, Ghost Protocol is theoretical. We've never tested it in actual combat. Then today we find out if human ingenuity can overcome Council arrogance. Sarah stood and began pacing the bridge. For those of you who don't know, Ghost Protocol is a combination of stealth technology and psychological warfare. We're going to make the Council think they're fighting ghosts. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. The Valorans taught us that honor isn't about facing your enemies in open battle. It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves right now. There are human civilians trapped in that anomaly, and there are Council ships coming to murder them. We have 12 minutes to save those people and send a message that will echo across the galaxy. Captain, Kim interrupted, I found something in the battle data. There are weapons signatures here that don't match any known Council technology. The energy patterns are organic. Organic? What do you mean? I mean the weapons that destroyed. The Valoran ships weren't mechanical. They were biological, living weapons. Captain, the Council didn't just use superior firepower, they used something that could think, adapt, and target specific weaknesses in Valoran shielding. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's climate control. Are you saying the Council has weaponized living organisms? That's exactly what I'm saying. And if they're willing to use bioweapons against the Valorans, they won't hesitate to use them against us. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Accords explicitly banned biological weapons, considering them crimes against life itself. The Council wasn't just committing genocide, they were violating every principle they claimed to uphold. New plan, Sarah said grimly. We're not just saving the survivors. We're gathering evidence. The galaxy needs to know what the Council has become. Captain, 8 minutes to intercept. Should I begin evasive maneuvers? Negative. Hayes, I want you to target the debris field, not the Council ships. Specifically, I want you to target the largest pieces of wreckage and prepare to use them as projectiles. Hayes's eyes widened with understanding. A debris storm. We turn the entire field into a weapon. Exactly. The Council destroyed this station, and everyone on it. Now we're going to use their own atrocity against them. As the bridge crew worked frantically to implement the improvised battle plan, Sarah opened a channel to the ship's engineering section. Chief Ramirez, I need you to work a miracle. Can you reroute power from life support to the engines? Captain, that would give us maybe 20 minutes of breathable air. Then we'd better make sure this fight doesn't last 20 minutes. The Defiance began moving through the debris field with deadly precision, using its tractor beams to position massive chunks of twisted metal and hull plating. What had once been a peaceful research station was being transformed into an improvised minefield. Each piece of wreckage a potential projectile capable of devastating even a Council dreadnought. Captain, Morrison reported, I'm getting a response from inside the anomaly. The survivors are alive, but they're running out of air. The Valoran protection is keeping them safe from the vacuum of space, but it's not providing life support. How? Long do they have? Maybe an hour, Captain. Maybe less. Sarah nodded grimly. An hour to save 50 lives, defeat 3 dreadnoughts, and expose the Council's war crimes. She'd faced better odds, but not by much. Captain, the Council's ships are hailing us. Put them through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Admiral Ziegler. The alien's features were typically Council sharp, angular, with eyes that seemed to look through rather than at her. When he spoke, his voice carried the arrogance of someone who had never been challenged. Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Accord 7A by entering a restricted zone. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Sarah smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Admiral Ziegler, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance. I am here investigating the unprovoked attack on Kepler Station and the murder of 1,700 human civilians. I formally request that you surrender your ships for inspection and submit to questioning regarding war crimes. The Council Admiral's expression didn't change, but Sarah caught a flicker of something surprise, perhaps, or amusement. You are clearly suffering from some form of mental impairment, human. There were no civilians at Kepler Station. There was only a military installation that posed a threat to galactic security. Then you won't mind if we examine the evidence. There is no evidence because there was no crime. Now withdraw, or we will be forced to remove you. Sarah's smile widened. Admiral, I have a counter-proposal. Why don't you and your ships leave, and we'll pretend this conversation never happened? Because in about 3 minutes, you're going to discover that humans don't respond well to threats. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Sarah could feel the weight of 300 lives depending on her decisions. But she could also feel something else, the spirits of the Valorans, who had died protecting human civilians, and the determination of her crew to honor that sacrifice. Captain, Hayes reported, debris field is positioned and ready. Council, ships are moving into optimal range. Kim, are you recording everything? Every energy signature, every communication, every weapon discharge. If we survive this, the galaxy will know what really happened here. Sarah settled into her command chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to engage 3 Council dreadnoughts in defense of human civilians. The odds are against us, but that's never stopped humanity before. Remember that we're not just fighting for the people trapped in that anomaly, we're fighting for every human colony in the Outer Rim, every family that the Council considers expendable, every child who deserves to grow up free. She paused, thinking of the Valorans, who had died believing in human principles. We're also fighting for our friends who can't fight anymore. The Valorans died with honor, and by God, we're going to live with it. All stations, prepare for engagement. The Council ships opened fire first, their massive energy cannons lighting up the void with destructive fury. But instead of targeting the Defiance, they found themselves shooting at empty space as Sarah's ship danced through the debris field, using the wreckage as cover and concealment. Now, Hayes, give them hell. The debris storm began with a single, massive piece of hull plating, launched by the Defiance's tractor beam at a significant fraction of light speed. It struck the Sovereign Justice's forward shields, causing them to flicker and strain. Then another piece, and another, until the entire debris field was moving, turning the graveyard of Kepler Station into a weapon of vengeance. The Council ships found themselves under attack, not by a single human vessel, but by the ghosts of everyone they had murdered. Every piece of wreckage that struck their hulls was a life taken, a dream destroyed, a future stolen, and in the middle of it all, the Defiance moved like a predator, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing back into the debris before the Council ships could respond. Captain, Morrison shouted over the noise of battle. We're getting massive energy readings from the anomaly. Something's changing. Sarah looked at the tactical display and felt her heart skip a beat. The protective bubble was expanding, and the humans inside were beginning to move. The Valoran's final gift was finally revealing its true purpose, not just protection, but preparation. They had given the survivors time to organize, to plan, to prepare for whatever came next. Captain, Kim reported, her voice filled with awe, the survivors aren't just civilians. I'm reading military-grade equipment, weapons, even what looks like a mobile command center. The Valorans didn't just save random people, they saved the ones who could fight back. Sarah began to laugh, a sound that started low and built to something that made her bridge crew exchange worried glances. The Valorans hadn't just died protecting humans. They had died giving humanity its greatest weapon. Not advanced technology or superior firepower, but something far more dangerous. They had given humanity time to get angry. "All hands," Sarah announced, her voice carrying across the ship. "Change of plans. We're not just rescuing survivors anymore. We're unleashing them." The anomaly collapsed like a soap bubble bursting. In slow motion, reality reasserting itself in a cascade of brilliant light that briefly outshone the nearby star. As the protective field dissipated, Sarah watched in amazement as what emerged was not a group of terrified survivors, but a fully operational military strike force that had been preparing for this moment since the moment the Valorans sealed them away. "Captain," Morrison's voice cracked with emotion, "we're receiving a transmission from the survivors. It's Colonel Marcus Torres." Sarah's heart stopped. Marcus Torres, her old friend who she'd thought was dead, appeared on the main screen. His face was grim, his uniform torn and bloodied, but his eyes burned with the same fire that had made him one of Earth's most decorated combat officers. "Sarah," he said, his voice carrying across the void between their ships, "thanks for the distraction. We've been watching the Council ships through the anomaly's sensors for the past hour, and we've been preparing a little surprise for them." "Marcus, you magnificent bastard, you're alive." "Barely. The Valorans saved 53 of us, but not before we watched them die protecting civilians. They didn't just give us time. Sarah, they gave us purpose." His expression hardened. "The Council is about to learn what happens when you corner humans who have nothing left to lose." As if summoned by his words, the space around the anomaly began to shimmer, hidden within the debris field, concealed by Valoran technology and human ingenuity. "We're not just survivors but an entire makeshift fleet. Salvaged weapons platforms, jury-rigged fighters, and most impossibly, a partially reconstructed Valoran warship that somehow pulsed with both alien technology and human determination." "How is this possible?" Sarah breathed. "The Valorans didn't just protect us, they gave us access to their archives, their technology, their knowledge. For the past hour, we've been learning, adapting, building. They showed us how to integrate human tactical thinking with Valoran engineering." Marcus's smile was predatory. "The Council destroyed Kepler Station, but they created something far more dangerous: humans with nothing to lose and alien technology to lose it with." The Council ships had been focusing their fire on the Defiance, trying to destroy what they saw as a single annoying gnat. They were completely unprepared for the coordinated assault that erupted from the debris field. Salvaged weapons platforms, their human crews operating with the desperate efficiency of people fighting for their lives, began targeting the Council ship's weapon systems with surgical precision. "Captain," Hayes reported, his voice filled with awe, "the survivors are using some kind of adaptive targeting system. Every shot they fire is adjusting to counter the Council's defensive measures. It's like they're learning how to fight these ships in real time." Sarah understood. The Valorans had been studying Council technology for decades, but they had been constrained by their own honor codes, their reluctance to use underhanded tactics. Humans had no such constraints. They were taking Valoran knowledge and applying it with the ruthless pragmatism that had carried humanity from the caves to the stars. "Admiral Ziegler is hailing us," Morrison reported. "He sounds agitated." "Put him through." The Council Admiral's composed facade had cracked. His angular features were twisted with rage and something that might have been fear. "What is this? What are you doing?" "We're giving you a demonstration, Admiral," Sarah replied calmly. "This is what happens when you murder families and expect their friends to just walk away. You're using prohibited technology. Alien weapon systems integrated with human vessels violate 17 different galactic accords." Sarah's laughter was cold as space itself. "You mean like the biological weapons you used against the Valorans? Like the illegal targeting of civilian populations? Like the murder of surrendering ships?" She leaned forward, her green eyes blazing. Admiral, you broke the rules first. Now you get to live with the consequences. The battle was turning into a rout. The Council ships, designed to fight conventional battles against predictable enemies, were being systematically dismantled by an opponent that refused to fight by any recognizable rules. Human tactical innovation, enhanced by Valoran technology, and driven by grief-fueled rage, was proving to be a combination that the Council had never encountered. Captain, Kim reported, I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the Divine Mandate. They're charging some kind of planetary bombardment weapon. Sarah felt ice in her veins. They're going to destroy the entire system rather than admit defeat. Sarah. Marcus's voice crackled over the comm. We see it too. That weapon will sterilize every planet in this system. Millions of lives. The tactical situation crystallized in Sarah's mind. The Council wasn't just trying to win a battle. They were trying to eliminate all evidence of their crimes. If they could destroy the entire system, they could claim it was a necessary action to prevent the spread of corrupted technology. Marcus, can your people get clear? Negative. Half our ships are running on salvaged power cells. We've got maybe 10 minutes of operation left. Sarah closed her eyes and made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. All ships, this is Captain Chen. I'm transmitting a set of coordinates to you. You have 30 seconds to clear the area. Sarah, what are you doing? Something that's going to make me either a hero or a war criminal. She turned to Hayes. Target the Divine Mandate's power core. Full spread, everything we've got. Captain, if that ship explodes, the chain reaction will destroy all 3 Council ships and probably us too. I know. Sarah's voice carried across the bridge with absolute certainty. But it will also create an energy signature that can be detected from halfway across the galaxy. Every ship, every sensor ray, every monitoring station will record what happens here. The Council won't be able to hide this. The Defiance launched every weapon it had, joined by the desperate fire of Tors's makeshift fleet. The Divine Mandate's shields flickered and failed under the concentrated assault, and for a moment, it seemed like they might succeed in stopping the Council's genocidal weapon. Then the universe exploded. The Divine Mandate's power core breached catastrophically, and the chain reaction Sarah had predicted began. But something went wrong, or perhaps, from a certain perspective, something went very right. The explosion, instead of simply destroying the ships, was channeled and amplified by the residual Valoran technology in the area. The energy cascade became a controlled detonation that annihilated the Council ships, while leaving the human vessels untouched. Impossible, Kim whispered. The Valoran technology is still active. It's protecting us. As the light faded, Sarah found herself staring at a sight that defied explanation. The 3 Council dreadnoughts were gone, reduced to their component atoms. But the Defiance and Tors's fleet were intact, surrounded by a fading aurora of energy that seemed to pulse with alien intelligence. Captain, Morrison said softly, we're receiving a message. It's not from any of our ships. The voice that filled the bridge was unmistakably Valoran, but unlike any they had heard before. It was the voice of the dead, speaking through technology that somehow preserved consciousness after death. Human friends, the voice said, our physical forms are gone, but our oath remains. We have given you the tools to protect yourselves, but the choice of how to use them remains yours. Choose wisely, for the galaxy is watching. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she realized what had happened. The Valorans hadn't just died protecting human civilians. They had uploaded their consciousness into their technology, creating a guardian system that would protect humanity long after their physical forms were gone. This is Colonel Torres to all ships. Marcus's voice carried across the comm system. We've got incoming hyperspace signatures. Looks like the cavalry is finally arriving. The United Earth Fleet emerged from hyperspace in a formation that spoke of controlled fury, 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and Admiral Reyes' flagship, the UES Retribution. Sarah had never been so happy to see military vessels in her life. Captain Chen. Admiral Reyes' voice filled the bridge. Report, Admiral. We've successfully rescued the survivors. From Kepler Station, documented evidence of Council war crimes, including the use of biological weapons, and We've also just destroyed 3 Council dreadnoughts. The silence that followed was deafening. Captain, did you just say you destroyed 3 Council dreadnoughts? Yes, sir. With assistance from the survivors and some technology left behind by our Valoran allies. Jesus Christ, Sarah, do you have any idea what you've done? Sarah looked out at the debris field that had once been Kepler Station, at the ships that had come to rescue them, at the space where 3 Council dreadnoughts had been moments before. She thought of the Valorans, who had died protecting human civilians, of the children who had been murdered for the crime of being born human, of the friends who had sacrificed everything to give humanity a fighting chance. Yes, Admiral, I know exactly what I've done. I've started a war. Captain Morrison reported. We're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The energy signature from the battle is being detected by every major power. The Council is already issuing statements claiming we used weapons of mass destruction. Sarah nodded grimly. Then we'd better make sure our side of the story gets out first. Kim, transmit all our sensor data to the fleet. Every energy signature, every communication, every piece of evidence that shows what the Council really did. Here, as the data stream began, Sarah felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. She had made the decision that would either save humanity or doom it. The Council would not let this go unpunished. They would come with everything they had, convinced that humanity had to be destroyed before their crimes were exposed. But Sarah was no longer afraid. She had seen what humans could accomplish when they were pushed to the edge. She had witnessed the courage of the Valorans and the resilience of her own species. Most importantly, she had learned that sometimes the greatest act of heroism was refusing to let evil triumph. No matter the cost, Admiral, she said into the calm system, I recommend we begin immediate evacuation of all human colonies in the Outer Rim. The Council is going to come for us with everything they have. Already in progress, Captain. But Sarah, what you did here today, what all of you did, it's going to echo across the galaxy. The Council has been the dominant power for 3,000 years. They've never been successfully challenged. Then it's about time someone showed them they're not invincible. As the United Earth Fleet began the long journey back to human space, Sarah stood at the viewport and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was gathering its forces, preparing for a war that would determine the fate of every sentient species in the galaxy. They had technology, numbers, and 3 millennia of dominance. But humanity had something the Council had never faced, the willingness to fight impossible odds for the people they loved. And now, thanks to the sacrifice of the Valorans, they had the tools to make that fight count. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics, it was their refusal to surrender, even when faced with certain death. The Council had wanted to teach humanity its place in the galactic order. Instead, they had taught humanity that some principles were worth dying for, and that was a lesson that would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself.